Hi Oblivion. By Billy McBride. Copyright at 2022, by William McBride, all rights reserved. 1. When I am out of the warehouse, and when I am out of the office, and when I am out of the gallery, then there will be no place for a tub, and no place for a shower hookup. And, when there is no place for cooking, then I will not put a microwave there, nor a refrigerator. What I know is big. And, when there will be no time for what comes next, then I will not be here for 1 month more, and before that, nothing will have happened, neither will the mansion have happened, nor the limousine. And I will write no music. And when it is time to stop me from walking, there will be no use for any modular depths, and I will give up investigating them so as to hide the AC units, and hide the plumbing, and hide the electrical fixtures, and hide the cabinets, and hide the ledges, and tables, and computers, and furniture, and beds, and storage, and insulation, and hide the balconies, and railings, and flower pots, and rooms reflections, and notations, and then all things will be hidden for good. When the architecture is made basic in construction by me, then it will disappear. The blankness will be in its functionality when it has no more elements any more in and of what was its architecture. 2. When we emerge from out of our dark prisons, then we will try to hurry ourselves awake, and time will then speed us up. And, when everything seems lost, something will be found, and I will then look to others for answers, and when they become louder, their noise will not repeat my questions I had, for when our energy is invigorated, we will become ourselves awake. And, when I have another vision of the day, and when in that vision there are no streets, then there will be no moisture from the rain, and the cars will appear from out of nowhere, and, when every alphabet is organized, then all things will be revealed in green and red neon lights. And when I love the familiar places around me, then my body will visit them again and again. And I will have a solid stare at the solid air, and then I will put off the crown today when all is impoverished. And, when things are never here, then I will take my sweet time to undo all of the combinations I can. And when I ignore and forget poetry, then I will be colorless, and my visions will not be of the rolling hills. And, when I sleep in the night by you, then change itself will end. And, when I give up writing research papers, then those documents done by Jack's mathematical doctor friend will be with the third level forgotten, and the random order will be difficult to follow because creativity and its strangeness will be crushed, and, when change is random, then so will be my potential forgetfulness. And, when I leave, then I will not be in the bathroom. I will put out cat food when I know where to go next for sure. I made up no songs, and drove no trucks. I neither think of pigs nor of dinosaurs. When I run out of gas, I will be in good time to see no waters. And, when no water is left in this world, then I will leave, and I will ask others not to consider any possibility that I am who they think I am. 3. When none of it is done by research, then I will never have been a monkey. And, when I control myself, as I really like having circles around me, then I will have to leave them be. For I find out where I can get $2,400 when I am black and blue, and then I will not wish to stay, but, you know, I will stay because my ticket is lost, and I am frowning. The day is done and I am wandering a desert when I have opened myself up to all around me. And, when I wish to stay, and when I am safe, then I become scared. And, when I know it is not money, but when all around me will miss me, then I will get my hands even dirtier because they are calloused as anything. And, I will be discovered and come back, and come to, and come by, even when I am not hungry for food. For I know where I am. And, when this is my distraction of a train of every idea coming at me in random, then I will not think of John Locke, nor of duration. But, I have a sensation of being distracted by the appearances of certain irregular periods at different distances, and they are the ideas of uncertain length and measurements of space. And, when I do not repeat this to my mind, when I do not imagine such a space, then I will be surprised when tomorrow comes and what it will be like. And, I am disposing of an idea that eternity is something I can handle when I consider that idea of space in particular. 4. This is not society, and this is not my portfolio, and these are not my pictures, and those are not my flags and scrolls, and these are not my texts and matches. When I am blinded to the notebooks compiled, then they become complete volumes, and my Lego drawings cease to be structures that can be given titles, the diagrams vanish. When the film is botched, then I will know that I am not in San Antonio, and there will be no list of potential sponsors. And, when I toss away my budget because I have no ideas, then the flags, banners and pendants will lose their detail, and it will be time for the structure to be reverse engineered. And, I am not in the state, and things do not add up when I lose the computer programming sponsorship, and my name William Godfrey McBride 3 will be erased. When things only go in one way, then everything belongs to that field, distinctions blur, and nothing is reflected by any meaningful connection since that too has broken away and died. The columns do not appear as massive when other objects look bad around them. And, when the causes of technology, of architecture, of geometry have gone in only one way, then those sections will not show outlines, and Habermas, and Derrida, and Rorty, and Bataille will all leave their schools. And, when my biography is democratic, then I will have no culture, and nothing will go to waste since all that is pragmatic of commerce, of homogeneity will not become an erotic critique of taboos and of particular economics. When they forget to introduce me, then Foucault will partake in making an important distinction between the types of powers, and when he too forgets to attribute general, all-inclusive conditions, then they will lose the ability to be characterized, and Heidegger, Derrida, Jewish mysticism will seem ignored. For transcendence does not happen in two ways, not going beyond culture and norms, not going beyond time and fixed ideas, not going beyond history. And, when moderation of standards, paradigms, self-referential reasons, ontology are overlooked because of glaring superstandards, then historical accounts of the forces of destruction of words will obscure understanding after constructing them happens for the sake of work and work alone. When a history is not made up of us, then the words will have no etymologies. 5. When I say farewell, then I will let go of the request for that grant application from the Foundation for Information concerning the most recent eternities for submitting grant applications. When I am ungrateful, then patterns will flow into different groups, and I will know all. When I awake, the self will be healthier, and nothing will be possible outside it. And, when schemata become unnecessary, then these similarities and differences will exist beyond history. When X and Y relate, then these feelings will not be put into words anymore, and the past will be considered a thought experiment. And, when I am included in X, then my inactivity and my idleness will be the same thing as undistinguishable from each other, and I will not be able to explain the specific by the general. And, when the continuum happens all at once, then my duration will not be organized. And, when there are no more metaphors, then I will not write my Symphony 1, nor its last movement, and I will put all of the notes on the bottom bar. And, when I keep all in the same position, then I will get out my best china to celebrate my life just like that. And, when I am making time by forming outside an uncommon time span, then every triad will not be repeated. There is no symmetry when I hang up on the art dealers at the galleries, and when I cannot meet with them nor have pictures taken of me. And, when I become a for-profit artist, then I will not be called William McBride, and I will have the answers at the exhibition. And, when I wonder what the end result is, then I will lose my grants for the Texan trails. And, when the movement becomes solid, then balance will become less important. And, when I am rejected, and when I visualize the togetherness and the imbalances of hundreds of things, then the solidity will minimize into a particle, and it will neither have thinness nor any width. 6. Before the veneer is completed, and when I remember the symphony for now, the public will have its aesthetic appreciation. There is no mass, but stereotomy is massive, and this composition will have no architecture. I will keep silent about the publication and the exhibition. And when I am influenced by the Bauhaus school to have my public style carved away by the calmness of a relationship, then there will be no magic in the column, there will be no weight to a lintel. And, when that flowing moment depends on the shapes that are outside of its mass, then the timing of the sculptural architecture will put off balance the reflection of the spirit, and then a very old architecture will cease creating effects that pinch, lift, pull, shape and squeeze. And, when the water is frozen, I will not drink it sometime during the day. And, when the clouds are patient and still, then I will see the earth stop its motion, and the peaceful wind will float over rooftops. And when I interview the architect, then I will ask why did you become one, and I will wonder over the answer. And, when I ask if maturity is a good thing, then I will wonder at the answer. And, when I ask if the songbirds are disliked, then I will wonder over the answer. And, when the leaves are coming back in the glory of the spring, I will not ask about the squirrels, and then I will not wonder over the answer. And, when I ask why are we here, then I will be direct, and wonder why we are so talkative. And, when I have the answers, then the leaves will change color, and I will conclude and become silent. The commentary of the architect will happen when we meet, and I will say hello, yes, and my name will be spoken. 7. If it is impossible, miracles will be unrelated, the dew will sit on the roses, and the way will not happen because of some luck of a personal kind. The order has an order to it, and the lights stay on, colors are left behind. The second chance is given, and the healthy boredom comes. When there are no more potato chips, when the people are at peace, when the spider is ahead of itself, then these words will be as light as air, and, when the solid bricks, and the unclear windows, and the pleasant beauty outside move slowly with the page, then science will implode upon itself, and there will not be room to escape the knowledge of the wind. And, where there is love satisfied, the symbols will exist for a man or woman, their answers will have meaning, but they will not have power to dare. When the books contain no rules to conform to all at once, the games will be of touch, and the blunt touch will be known by approving people at peace with their blocked identities. And, when the insects thrive, and the point becomes one to drag onward through 100 tunnels, the soft hands will shake each other, and people will settle and prosper in their silky clothes searching for nothing more than a way to stick together on this globe forgiven by benevolent others. The painted rooms reflect the weakness of daylight, and the energy of nature is of the freedom to be naked. The first object that is seen is a discovery to eyes about the way it was and the ways not to take it. And, when the adults are instructed to say polite sayings, and little is admired of their etiquette, then the knots are untied in only one way, and while some knots will end up untied, the education is a serious one where people are educated kindly not to sing songs anymore. The rest is so very exciting, and the fire is standing without shape in its fire, and we let it all go on in our little domestic state where we hear it all as a song now begins. I cannot see the moment that can change the world. When my thoughts cannot be edited anymore, my memories begin to communicate to me what to write. And, when I return clothed but without having any purpose to be clothed, then I will place somewhere on the earth upon some dead-end road my colors brightening staying steady in the light of the sun, and the cars will vanish with the sun, and the hum of the fields will become quiet. 8. Where will I go with my legs when I would go anywhere with them? When I must awake and awake best until all rest moves satisfactorily away, then I might just plan on living. When my time is crucial, then my pleasures are clothed in my nudity, and I have to be private. When I understand the law, then it must be that nudity is the not wearing of clothes, and all things wear something, no. So what will I put on when I am outside when I am at some boring angle, and when I gain even more in the simplicity of my poem? And, when the concepts themselves are older, then they will fade into a powerlessness. And, when cant becomes less real, and when all things are clarified by the poem, then I will not be aware of the end of comprehension. I will not be as formal and traditional in my reasoning, and the truth of dissolving the problems will perfect nothing. There will be no dialectic of reason, nor of a rational way because the path will be lost in the meanings. When the Weltgeist has no absolute knowledge left, then my experiment will triumph. And, it will be okay to bring in the treble at last, and it will speed up the rain which is falling. And, when the awesomeness leaps nicely into something else, then the major goodness will be visualized in the lower parts. And, it will be okay that for all of these things which happen between the continuum, an advanced newness will be remembered, and then Eric Satie's music can be turned off. And, when it speeds up in a major jump from C to E flat, then I will make use of a triple rest with one more to follow. 9. I will go forward with the measure taking it away from the original. By doing so it will not be superfluous, and it will go, E, A, D, G. And, when without this, I will cease doing the same thing, it will dwindle for a moment and then stop. And, when I delete the note C on a G, and discard it between D and A, then it will trail behind on an ascent never to return to the major into which it cannot jump. And, if the sound becomes wrong, then I will go slower, and play it only once. I will slow down in the softening and join it to the end of my ascent. It will not be a Wagnerian motif, and I will not think about Nabokov either. And, when I discard these different pieces, I will order them in the same way, and I will construct the foundation by building around time a mold. There will be no rocks, and no masses. Each moment in the garden is special. Those moments from the final music will not reflect any bad times. The true discovery. And, when the warmth of the sun reaches my legs, I shall turn it all on, and the light upon the trees and branches will collect beside the motionless grass. And, when I avoid the films of a monomotion, films of playing a final music will relate to my spirit when finalizing the music, because these are the older ways of learning. I will make music by commissions, and there will be constructed a home too. And, I will give away the keys to my public, and they will be socialized and sophisticated, and there will be no biggest problem with that because I will not want to walk through it. And, when the horizontal proportions make patterns again, then a freedom will be made by the rules of the form. And, when I do not conceptualize a cookie-cutter cast, then I will connect the concepts of the whole form, which is limited by the stereotomic method. And, when I take it all apart, then I will have no more model to work on. 10. When the straight frames are forgotten, then a few leaves will be destroyed in wonderful scatterings of shapes, and I will not be looking between them but at the earth's surface I will look. I will end with one model, and it will be a good thing that you will not be bothered by it. And, when it is a good thing that you are calmed by it, then for a problem to be created will you ask, and the pleasantness will be hid. And, from this conflict of ideas, and from the avoidance of the predictable model, nothing will happen, feelings will die away for the forms, and those old models will become realized, and they will pull towards the edge, and silence will ensue. The old model will become real, and I will glance at the massive one right side up to translate the interruption which swings down in a triad through the keys on the piano. And, when they wonder about that, then I will rise up. When millimeters are added to the serious shortness, then nothing will seem what it is, and either you will be where you are, or I will have to say otherwise. And, when friendship becomes tragic, then it will have just begun, and, the dancing will be wiser, and the purpose will be to cease the dance. When I conceal my nakedness, then I will not sport in my shoes, and the maturity I have will be hidden from all under the rainy sky. And, when what is mine, I will remember the fifth, and the sun will drop in the working night, and some meaning will just then live. When I remember you, then I will add to my voice some love, and my spirits will remain present. And, when the elegance comes today, then the people will be thrust into the future, and the future will continue from the present. 11. The excuses are crazy, they are picked up, but why? When such insight takes one down, then thought itself is answered by the intelligent answerer. The intelligent answers deserve my questions, and the truth of reality becomes the answer. When everything is nonsense, then the absence of the rolling hills will not resemble anything smooth. The brown ice cream is hard to attain, and today, tomorrow, and yesterday all cause the dry air to rise as the warmth bounces off the clouds. When despair brings insight, then the prayers are for knowledge, and they are kind of safe to say as the knowledge is a knowledge of an all too secure faith. When there is wakefulness, the carpet is lowered, and yet I still cannot picture you as an ant. And, when you transport yourself back to me, then the normally large objects seem small. Millions of macro worlds are closer. When the sandpaper is not affecting my throat, then my saliva does not burn. And, when I do not expect anything steady, then the wind will awaken and take me out of sight. And, when everything is destroyed again, human energy will weaken, and electricity will be the same as it always is. When the wide tunnels are shortened, then will smooth out the controlled waters. And when what was an engraved perfection is casually rubbed away, then the walls will lose their planks, and the upper roof of the home, and the bricks supporting it will shatter. The frozen filler cannot hold the wall in place, and disagreements are if the yellow was the best color there. And nobody has goofed up. When the slanted boards rise perpendicular to the square shelter, then there will be a calm which is the origin of all peace. These are the same situations, and they can be judged differently. When the faith becomes knowledge, and when reality is still not completely true, then the past will become the present, and the meanings will die away. When all of the lies are judged by nobody, then the judgment will happen after death. And, when most of the time the future is worth more than the present, then the payment will be delayed again, and many questions will be answered. And, when time becomes eternal, then everybody will still not know everything, even though the world will remain lively. And, when a double-sided truth is still not believed, then I will decide them to be either for it or against it. 12. When science takes away one's freedom as its laws give to all no freedom, then the outcast loses the freedom which is meant to decide the beginning. When there is someone you love, and when loss is wholly spoiling all of the parts, then you can travel time back, but you will not be able to change anything that you have written down. When I am lazy and things pile up, then I will be satisfied with the answers, and the solutions will be one. When I allow for no music to enter my ears, then the drums will go on without me, and my body will disintegrate. When I care for the tribal drums again, they will be welcome to summon me in my waking state as real as the desert upon which they sound. The bricks brighten farther outwards, and the blackness of the city has yet to be found. The noise is of a rising of the drops which have left the volumes of the bodies of water. The blips sound away into the noise, and there is another similarity between same things, which is that I know always when I am in the light and its colors that keep. The rings cannot be seen from here, the rings are red on the clouds appearing. And, when the stories temporarily shine, then the points often cannot happen, and we will exit the plains. They go slower than any human, and they travel quickly into sleep rising with the comfort of a victory and breeze. When the yellow dots are spread out, then the eyes will use much motion to comprehend what they are. And when everything is resolved and clear, then the objects will steady the calm head. 13. When I left the blue-tinted room, there were computers all around me, the people were doing no work, and I knew that I too would not be working. There was a silent man in front of me, and I rose up, and Steve rose before me. The man did not wish for us to go, but he did not talk to us about that. After sitting idle by the computers, I had to go to the restroom, and I went out into a pavilion. In a small room was a bar, but there were no doors, and yet it was a respectable place. Some people told me that there were doors for the restroom, so I found them, and I did not return to my work. I had an idea of what I was doing there, and the computer did not turn into itself, but the computer became just a picture. I did not tell my boss about it, but he was mean and he bossed me, and I found myself in another room where I picked up some colorless everyday objects from off of the floor. The objects broke, and the boss was mad, and some lady and I had some skateboards, and we were standing on them at the top of a hill while the moon was out. The road had whipped cream or toothpaste snakes drawn on the curb, and we had pushed our way up the hill. I have forgot that I was happy, and I was not so serious. The hill was shorter than usual, and our trip did not take long. As I was not serious, the clouds slowly left, and took with them the storm. It was not as if I myself changed the weather, and I still had fun starting to play in the dryness, but when I got home, I heard my sister telling my dad that I was in trouble for skating in the dark. When coming back crunches a few leaves, then destiny afterwards lets things loose, and in the stones is embedded a wisdom which, always on the move, will ever so try for a few more follies. When education is wasted, then the wind will slow down to a halt as if to lift away the light outside. And as I am so very far away from something, I do not scrabble anything down. 14. When the bibble babble is not called for, and when the blueness of the sky is close to you, then the limits are less real, and the secrets will be known. When those secrets are seen, then the resources will not be there, and you will wonder why. There is no vocabulary in the architecture, and my own way through the paths and structures is forgotten. I give myself over to the wastefulness which is whatever is not poetry. Whatever it is not experimental, and the forms are not seen in the structure, and there is no composition nor arrangement, nor is there any planning, language nor sound. Where there is no vocabulary, there will not be any echoes. Least of all, my ability to smooth things out is without form. And when I stay the same in my room, then it will take some sleep to curve me out, and then my vocabulary will have a form. And, when I am in the field with the nature around me, I will explore that field, and the nature around me which is blurry. And as it is not like any architecture, I will be able to connect as many blurs as I can where there are no corners, windows, roofs, sizes nor modes, and by doing this, I will have a future for my life here. Where there is poetry, there is a past. And, I will experiment with these harmonies that I assume are forms but not criterion. And, when I have another's love, then I can get my peace, and lose the etymologies which were impossible to understand. Then the way will be misunderstood of those writings I gained. I am certain that I have left them on top of the car. And, when I begin, things will have already passed. And it is my old journal which I feel has some definition to its wonders. 15. The opportunity drills just for a short time, and my belief is to make a perception of what I cannot see. When the only order is an order under which I am obligated to disbelieve, then I believe in nourishing the senses with some help as I lie down on the open field in the pointy soft grass. And, as I get away from future barriers, I have a good interview, but my name, age and birthplace are not known. And, when the grass is covered up, whatever is beyond it is as local as my time. When it is stolen from the rocks, the covering darkens and freezes into a shell which protects the solidity of the rocks, and, when I am asked to leave with the sunshine, then I am not prepared since I have been led to create for my use a dominant plenitude of time. And, when I procrastinate when I am older, then I will bring forth a gift in the ooze, which is for the preparation of the dawn. And, then I will know that I am not being used. And, my mind will not differentiate between the ancient fossils and new berries, both of which are driven into the leaves and the stone of my mind. If I am saddened by staying very still, then that night I will take off my boots and fall asleep in the quietness of freedom. And when the air begins to thump, and my body is pushed over to the live trees, then I will rattle their thick boughs and remember my trance. My eyes will open and I will stop dreaming. That night, I will take myself away in sleep and I will be lost in it. The question makes for another question which is different than defining a definitum. For example, you cannot make up these rules of inaccuracy and of obscurity. In addition, by not explaining nor describing nor predicting, you may be subject to space and its containment. My own calm state of mind is possible to come with poetry, so that I do trust in allowing it to set me free with further explorations. And, when the writing means to get it out of me, then no experiment can fix the words, and there will not be another binary opposition in the room. And what I cannot do, and what I can, will be creative. And the science will not oppose itself to my story which comes out from stories. 16. When fictions and vocabularies become unmixed with words and their sentence structures, then the paragraphs too will be incorrigible with a newness. In and out, I am not between fantasies, and being unmixed with the levels of thought, a division of nonchalant themes operate upon me just like my awareness of blinking. And you and your own eyes are no mystery, and every day I avoid looking back so that the people sitting by and around me can emerge out from their shadows into society. And when they do not listen to my valentines, they will not meet with each other on the land, and nobody will own anything, nor sponsor me, and I will not speak of history any more nor about the artists who have avoided looking at the map. And then I will pick some places, but not the Miller Outdoor Theater, and I will drop out of architecture, and the unifying will not be the only way to bring together the rooms, but by trust even more than faith will I do so. And, it is not that important to assume that I will be the sculptor of the architecture, and what I build will not be any music nor any writings, but I will teach still others to further a didactic art which is not of these houses nor sculptures, but of their models which shine by a light which I cannot hold any more in myself, and, the actual and exact ways of their fictional construction will not be a music which I let out of me, as I do the light from them, but a light will shine and the curves will spread out diagonally like a picture where the image happens simultaneously with the picture that happens at every moment of every scene. And, I will give this as my example, and my thoughts will move onward, and when they snicker at my calling, I will snicker back in the hallway where I am, and I will focus on their happy and clear eyes, and I will not look out the window. And, if they wish to steal my car, or fly past the hills, and do it in a normal way, then the world will be able to assume with me that our feelings have been according to that thinking which moves outward, which has always been a strong possibility, and there will still be those who keep back the echoes, and we still will not know what to do with them. 17. I do not apprehend how to apply the knowledge which makes poetry into my freedom. And, the treats are the cause and the effect is therapy, but it is a real imagination that questions. And when all of these are all reformed, then the experiences of a few will be nonsense if they are nothing. And, the first most knowledgeable thing in the world is to see openly that one added to one makes two. And the second is not of the denial of it. A rest then is taken forward when I leave to find my life, and I recycle in an unlucky time my music though it is not heard, but still I begin to live again for today. And, the paper, the canvas and the photograph of how similar shapes can create a difference have given to me an idea about the garage, and I will take down the cube-like modules to create depth so that the unity will be of each shape that is outside of me. The colors will be still and steady, and the organization to come later will not be driven by any powerful force, but will create, by its own given inaction, a few models of me. And, after that I will deepen, and the school of that will motivate me to hold back what is concrete again from the bricks always, and I will not want to mix those materials which are not concrete, though the wood may modulate independently. And when Bataille is ignored, the cooperation will not be traced in our history, and we will use no metaphors to create life or death or heaven or excrement or mouth or body or mind or human or inhuman or change or permanence or material or ideal or discontinuity or continuity or genealogy or history or appropriation or heterogeneity or homogeneity or art or thinking or science or philosophy until we choose to see what is entirely clear. And, that will not be difficult to grasp because the structuralists will say nothing about the post-structuralists' followers. 18. This optimist television is ontological, it constructs a capitalist entertainment without respect to simulacrum or hyperreality. And when grammar is not of the king's English, the tennis balls are gripped as you would a head, and someone sitting down has a brown dog beside him. And that one-legged man sings a song. The pantyhose is wrapped around his head when the bank robber will have his memento, and he will come forward with his country song and dance. The water faucet is not by the window where I am standing watching a soap opera or a talk show. Now they are jumping because the animal there is a mouse, which of all animals is a rock mouse. The wind is for Andy, but not for me. This flashlight has no flash anymore, and my face is still funny. The background music still does not prepare any way for me, but the sky is the answer, and out of it comes a stick for the grass. The bull circles me, and it has a goal but it does not have a direction, and I have still not changed my mind, which is for the diamond. And my interest is for the music, but not for the hot dogs, and life like this winter has its pale sky which lengthens out under the trees by a home. And the mouse is lengthened too. It goes up wisely to take what it can from me. And I smile. 19. Gadamer's was a phase. And, Illing was a fable. Of art, I too am fooled, and I become noisy and I talk in dead ends. Whatever causes from the silence even more silence, that cause of the silence itself is its hush. But I have never got used to the whispering, and it does not prick me onwards to come nearer to some other. Ours is of emotion on a trampoline. I have been thinking of the process in terms of the space because the structure we had once had a plan. And, as I cannot do without music, I just make up some abstract goals, and my motion becomes as commonplace as my talk. And when I jump around it gives to me significance that there is simplicity in this beauty, and if it is a trick, then I will take it up with difficulty with the black octopus. 20? I know it will take me another 2 years. I am with my group, and we are shaping up the thoughts and moving ahead. But these tools are not efficient ones, no, it is the schemata which I do not need. Nor does its structure become experience. Only when things are finalized will the movement I have become singular. And then, finally, the seconds will slow down, and the movement will be as romantic as my other relationships I have. Then the irony will have been learned, and the concepts of Foucault, Nietzsche, Derrida, Lyotard, Rorty, Marx, Baudrillard and others will make impossible the opinion that I have of me here sitting down in the flow of time. My audience too is in the flow of time, but who can be in these sentences that have had neither dialogue nor discourse? There is no building up of a story, and neither is there a text within me. 21. When all is nothing but the rising up of many water drops, then the danger is of what happens above the surface. The heights of a page are excited, and there is a storm within its clarity of a clearing that allows for no currents of theory to hang together. When this is always apparent, and when other times are clear as well, then they will not be read as the products of any synthesis of. There will be no tempo that parallels others who, upon some blurry boundary, have no position which might have been. And it is midnight, and the themes of inclusion and exclusion are dawning. 22. A science of hyperbole could be called hyperbology, and the study would have no discipline like photography does. The bigger picture comes afterwards, and when one applies it to another structure, then the construction cannot change. And, where many things might have changed, the psychology behind it still cannot expose those higher needs to have a poem be highest. These higher needs ride within in the right way, and they limit our behavior to a small part of that harmony in a society which must be. When we do not strive for the superb, then our intellectual needs have no chance of being thought of as bettered. If my rights are given free rein, these higher needs are satisfied and are actualized. But things are infinite, and our discussions make us feel so about an unconditional change. If there is too little pressure, or too much, we cannot escape. The effect is to stay put and discover what the imagination must alleviate even by the lowest form of pressure. For starters, the beginning will not be of a higher pressure until it begins to change, because without change, there is no pressure. 23. So time has ceased to move. The pressure is increasing the more you invent the images. Yes, maybe an imbalance is occurring because enough communication has been and so the images are presented just by you, and the pressure has ceased to exist to others. And, to begin, the solutions cannot be solved with the absence of the images, and probably without the aid of a logical space will the earth settle. This is not an increasing pressure process, and the atoms do not understand the whole, and if the atoms would have increased, then the pressure might have been avoided, and all could have continued. So the avoidance of the order changes the order again, and it is all done by design, and all of it has started to end some pressure which is just for me. The collapse happened to create the pressure, and when things continued without changing, the beginning began, and this is parallel to the imbalance of the pressure which has begun, and with pressure comes change. 24. There is no evolution that can change the pressure of space. And, I think about my body, and how it is a master over that pressure, and, without any energy, I have mastered its diminishment as my age changes and I become more inactive. The change is how my age becomes imaginative, which I have discovered, but I cannot explain that process in any paper. And, the games are on the higher levels from where I drop. The cut is into today, and the floor is alone a plane, and it graduates into one chop, but 144 chops happen over 128 feet. This is no model of mine, and there is no base to which it joins, and the colors disappear when they blend into space. And, when it is not awesome, the three are odd, and the sculpture is destroyed. The wheels are not worked on, and the mirror is very far away. And, when the images have no rhythms, then I will push out the strings which connect to every edge of their kind. And, this will be of a positive joinery, and yet the proportions will be odd to the number of shapeless lengths. The projects themselves will be numberless, and the zigzags will have no directions, and my fingers will not be able to number every shapeless mass. The blurry horizontals will be overestimated, and I will try not to compose more horizontals because horizontals blur whenever I draw or sculpt some imitation. 25. The bloom will soon be Alfred Lord Tennyson, and Alice Walker, and Andre Malraux, and Andrew Marvell, and Anthony Trollope, and Arthur Miller, and Ben Jonson, and Bernard Malamud, and Bigger Thomas, and Brett Ashley, and the Brontes, and Catty Compson, and Carson McCullers, and Cervantes, and Charles Baudelaire, and Charles Dickens, and Charlotte Bronte, and Chris Marlowe, and Clarissa Dalloway, and D.H. Lawrence, and contemporary poets, and Daniel Defoe, and Dante, and Doris Lessing, and E.M. Forster, and Edith Wharton, and Edmund Spenser, and Edward Albee, and Elizabeth Bishop, and Elizabeth Bowen, and Emily Bronte, and Emily Dickinson, and Ernest Hemingway, and Eudora Welty, and Eugene O'Neill, and Ezra Pound, and F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Fanny Burney, and Flannery O'Connor, and Franz Kafka, and Frederick Douglass, and Fyodor Dostoevsky are in the stereotomic bulk, and my nature too is to create some time. What is subtracted from it cannot be described, but I can study my own time's final picture. And, as Raphael speeds infinitely fast, the dull colors are not rendered by any watercolors, and they relax a grid upon which the Brazos sits. 26. I blush and let myself be, and my hand erases the long captions. And, it was not a simulation, so I will not need any plaster of Paris to close myself up inside the plane within its own stereotomy. And I lay down straight where many cubes are spread out, and at the top of the bed there are marks which confuse me, and as I cannot have a way to construct without any materials, the chain reaction cannot happen with these bricks which are in one stack. And when the ghost is a mess, I am as careless in the elegance as it is, and the time will not shift for me nor for it, and the one stack before us will grow. There are many modules left behind, and they are colorfully marked. Depths do not constitute any combinations, and I have my independence with the relationship of myself to this difficult and chaotic system. I have neither yet set up a rhythm nor any combinations of similar elements, as I only relate for now to some lines. 27. The shapes thin out, and at the end is the direction which I avoid. The yellow is near the blue, and the line has been topped. There are many cubes right here, and the line cannot imply another line. Many shapes are here, yet there has been no pressure at the end. So life contracts itself not into a cycle, and I cannot perceive the infinite maturity of the cycle it should have been, for there are many little effects that affect me, and at the beginning begins my contraction that will lengthen itself without any pressure. And I will be upset if I go out all of the way to distance myself from the door as all of this happens. And, the perfection happens inwardly, which is different from being already in the infinite situation. And so no proof is set up, and I am free to let my feelings respond to what cannot be merely a ploy. 28. There will be no press release, and I will have to disassemble the file cabinet before reality becomes a puzzle. And there will be no tautology nor any paradox which can be avoided. The material will not be connected to any notches, and on the stucco there will be many focal points. And I will lose my sponsorship when I define the condition of my art project, and the grass will seem even more abstract than my negativity. And the project will be kept away from the trees, and that will be one of many requirements. There will be 4 lines more to indicate each of the quadruple notes. Other factors will be undefined, and the facilities at the site will be for the art project. And if there is support from my colleagues, or from an institution or from a town body, then I will make available the materials. Other sources of financial support will not ensure that the project will be successful until I realize that there is no place where I might begin the project, and that it should not be the sort where having any foundation applies. And when I am shown that I cannot decide whether to perform or not, then the kind donations to build will circle into my hands, and I will not need any more to work on the previous design. I will end and stay around to meditate, and still Blinkputs will not be constructed, it cannot be copied by any corporations, and I will be going public with my list of the music I made, and I will test the stucco before I sit back down. 29. I will send the letter back tomorrow to lose my one chance out of many that have built up. And I will stop sending letters when nobody is convinced. And when my weak opinions strengthen my need to win, then I will have more potential to think some growth will come afterwards. And, I will be less productive in my teachings, and the broken layers of my poem will not be much criticized, and the difference will be of a type that is general for my communication by it. And so I will just teach, and I will stand out by making a scene to instruct in me, by the poem, how to contain a thickness that is only singly woven. And on the walls will not be hung any sailboat pictures. I will let them carry very little. And you will arrive with your discs, pebbles and steel, and the organization still will not be arranged like I like. To study just once the model is to take up what piece it has. And so we study it, and by our studies we disappear. 30. There is no more foam to hot wire, and the clamps are off of the plates which were upon the styrofoam. And it does not need to be on one side. Finally, I will not be able to cut the styrofoam with a knife, but its flatness will appear in many colors. The white and the blue shapes will become larger, and I will check over the zones that I am not certain I have duplicated. The arrangements will not yet be tested in stucco, and this type of form in particular that I will compose will have no limits. There will be 5 right here, and the lawn mower will be unnecessary. Louis Kahn will not be here, and the details for the rooms will reflect 6, 7 or 8 facades. And, these ancient numbers over the glass exit will not be planned. The glass itself will not be for any door. And the exit through the architecture school will be in the front. I will get in my poem more of a merry kind. and the next 2 rooms will be masterful in architecture. And the next 3 rooms will be of a merry kind. 31. The note will have no function, and the restroom will be a walk-in bathroom. The walkway will not affect the composition of the exterior, and the steel will be washed. There will be more room for a piano, and I will carry my unbroken shoes to a room for storing clothes. There will also be a room for making messes, and there will be an event to do so. The night will wheel around across the exterior. And less than 3 events will happen there. The emotions will be given over to the general feelings which attend each event. And there will be time for the architecture to disintegrate. The cars will not be defined in any Webster's dictionary, but there will be a single element that organizes everything. The whole will be literary, and the effect itself will have such an artistic totality as to be timeless. Then the art will be of one Einstein might do, and place will succeed time. Time will be a timeless immaterial concept, and objects in the emptiness of time will be accepted within it absolutely. Time will put no box around my space. There will be merely limited forms, and they will be the full of their own absoluteness. 32. I just scratch my head when these interpretations are the same. And I open my eyes. The fruit grows on the trees, and a light bulb is outside the box. And I don't have to learn how to mess it up, for it is better seriously when it is seriously put back into my mind. Without any spoon or fork, I will rise up off of the ground to find that my mind has not been social as I would like with other minds because of what I saw. 33. And you as well cannot fly, and you do not wish to go for a ride with the others on the double-decker bus. So you too are not set up in the light to fly, and the air cannot be tasted, and the imagination cannot yet be given to the light of another world. And you cannot feel yourself spinning around, but you can feel that when you return from being outside, your return will be ignored in effect, even if you whimper like that bird in the backyard of your house. 34. Many times, this same purple color has taken me on, and many times, I have been able to fight for a moment with a horse nose to nose. Many times, I have been bewildered by not being able to change the world, as if one person alone could do just that. There were many candles, and somebody made a wish, and still there was no flight away, but there was sand in my clothes. And many times I have been nonchalant about my expressions of inanimate objects. 35. Many times, I have been completely solid, and, like the curtains, I would block out light. Neither lines nor curves had any meaning, and yet I lived here as if I was dead. Though knowing is everything, the trees have stayed the same inside and out, and yet the look of me has been different. Many times, I have been witness to the wonder of health and gained by it an honest woman. And many times, when she was in my eye, I would not write any words about her. What she was what I was not, and we would tiptoe across the warm floor. And youthful night could not stay so, and people were all around us when we had our monkey which we gave away. There was nothing pink in the room, and it smelled just like coffee. 36. Where there are no metaphors, there is no vision. The sun is colorless, and the circus is dark. The stars light no cities, nor does the moon. Nothing smooths into a pearl. And, clouds have no birds upon their drifts. At night, the brightness is of water, but planets will not play among the murky waters of the day. In the summer, the leaves will get heavier. Then autumn will brown the largest of trees, and winter will wither to a pale fruit. And when the spring comes, the homes themselves will unfreeze and I myself will dim. The trees have died upon the grass, the rocks warm them up from the good earth, and the shrubbery will grow taller over those trees. 37. Cliffs darken, the theater glows. All of the shores cease moving as the lake rises. The dirt cannot mirror that which frames the youthful river of life. Infinity is no vain fruit or flower, and at this height a delicate and precious darkness is the fruit that the bitter dust would have whenever it must. The dirt is getting wetter in the whiteness of the snow. The cars, the metals, the ants, and mountains become weaker by desolation, and hills are normally the life of a jagged land. The waves in the canyon have cracked the code, becoming vast solutions for the Mother Earth, and those who live for them have become solemn. 38. There was never a hall, and the brightening shadows are sharpening across the solid bricks. There are no sights to the park, and no natural society is there to recreate. What once was the wind, now is nothing, and so no messages are in its motion. What once was a world is now an object which cannot flow like the clouds. Around them are no outlines, and the trees have sunken into the earth. Where a pyramid once stood is now a plateau, and there are no lines that can connect the stars to each other. And there is no heart which the earth could keep in time as hers. There is only one dimension to this construction, and I cannot state it, nor can I test the position of the universe in any poem. The symmetry has broken, and at what was once the center is a field under which no stars shine. What was once a healthy architecture is now a monument without a region, and to have no more architecture is what happened in Texas. And I cannot add A to S to make T. And because of that, there can be no text. To begin with, the Earth is enough, and the asteroids did not coast here, and I keep doubting what has been taken from me. The metaphors are metaphors alone. And my full name has to be of the letters which my two hands can spell. And when there is no Hinduism, and no Buddhism, and no Judaism, and no Confucianism, and no Christianity, and no Islam, then the clouds will be no more, and what will be either invisible or absent will not show up to explain itself in one way alone. And the scientist will have no language to bring into perspective the impossible potential of what was once a film. And there will be no techniques nor ways to outline as by way of any template anymore because there will be nothing left. 39. This hemisphere has no atmosphere. It has been unnecessary since 2001 to find purpose in the cities or in wordplay. There is no way to save any traditions that miseducate. To be without any tradition is to be without beauty. And I have no privacy. And, the dwellings which I have ignored, and my play, and myself have leveled out. There is just one home but no block, nor is it made of building blocks, and Ernest Block is not here. 40. Right here is the Texan exhibition, and it is not a paradox that the whole of it has been preserved. And, my plan has been to be estranged from people who bore me. This reality could have a numerical order, and my home is as solid as a mountain. Those numbers are loved by me which have let go of the universe and its business. If this is not Texas, and there is no exhibition, then I will shine out as I am, and my business will be to forget that place where I was once one with myself. The taxonomy is what I cannot figure out, and I have never done that before, which on this wall-covered chalkboard could have been chronologically timeless to any other. But, still I have not neglected the project. The air is clear of any answers where the goodness of a friendly butterfly is all I need. And, the democracy is to be taken as literally as my friendship, and if that is impossible to do, then I will chalk it up to a foul weather. William James is the name, and its letters do not form into any word which is mysterious. 41. This grammar has no letters. There is no this to that, and I have been here all along doing nothing. And, nothing can be revealed because I have not been missing, and neither have I won over any numbers. I believe that I am claimless. One key locks up Mission San Jose. And, the garage and the windows seem as normal as any common day, and I have decided not to rhyme again since the symmetry has broken again. 206 personal assistants have yet to make a bedroom or upper balcony into what either should be. And, there no belly left to Billy. 42. If there is no one else but me who will bring into birth the beginning of a worldly creation, then what has been done must be forgotten in the unification of the something from before into the something which is right now. And, if this is the end, and it happens to be ending just once, then death has something to do with the doing away of that creation of the spacetime of the now. The anarchy of it all does not have to wait for any spacetime to be lost because the end cannot be explained. If the dynamic end result is of destruction, then objects will have no way to be seen. And, when the connections to them shatter, then spacetime will be destroyed, and that loss will be the answer. The ugly truth is that my speech has died, and after taking away what has been lost, and these lines of my heart have no chance to become the story they were meant to be, then the ugly truth will make it difficult to see you in decoration anymore. If I care about my foes enough, and if our differences between spacetimes can be forgotten in the destruction of things, then I will go no further with my disturbing of the waters and of the waves, and the future will be complete. 43. I searched the charities and the geometries, and the writings and the model makings, and the music and the love, and the topographies and the states, and the cultures and the nations, and the geographies and the territories, and I wish for them all to come on time as I make for them a model. My inexperience with films is wide, and these films are irresponsible ones. And, there is an inconsistency in the rule by which the gallery goes. I am distracted by the past and where it all went, and my inexperience of resurrection is a wide one. And, without candlelight my eyes will see past the islands, and they will see into the private common ideas of someone, and I will be interested in the water around me. I will be working diligently to give my word, and behind me will be my dust. 44. I may not be bound to any traditions, nor to the symmetries of any objects, and because I am idle, symmetries become irregular and imbalanced forms. There is a disorder to this one dimension of a line or a plane, and on the circumference there is no harmony of a well-balanced whole. What once was unity has been individual all along, and being separated from it is due to the fact of my being with many. And, the many have separated me from the simplicity of these parts, and the disturbance is from many scenes. The multitude lacks the power to separate me from the countryside. And I separate corporations from products. It is confusion to be famous, to wonder how to be even more so. When Alabama cleans up Alabama, when Syria has a dimensionless construction in the arrangement of spacetime, there will be little that any astronomy, or physics, or literature, or poetry, or philosophy, or history can do to make original any future for individuals. And, the math, and nature, and geology, and the arts will be localized in a timeless particle which has always been so. Love is a model for bringing in the imagination, and it has for children a land to see. And in the streets, we will judge what can be seen of it to bring out democracy from whatever once separated us. It always must be that many divide themselves from one who is now motionless. And for that person to move forward outdoors will be the most hyperbolical thing they can do. The pain has been bad that touches all directly. And, I am pay knew how two could become one. There will be a line above the grass, the reconstruction must be over all directions, and the whole silence that is disturbed in Ireland over time has been of Ireland by Dublin neglected. There is just one original disturbance, and that is the hunger to be loved. 45. Where nothing is solid, there can be no building. Here nothing is solid, and so the 10 stories, and 2 penthouses, and basements cannot be planned. There is one material which makes up the whole, and I sit in a broken rocking chair. If the rottenness can be left behind, the parts that shatter will continue to diminish. And the building will not be larger than a car. Morris M. has been idle, and Charles Eames put another page in his diary, but I cannot cut my life into pieces that can be measured by any yards. There is no beauty in the lack of proportions when they are dropped in the dust. And within the light, a dust is spread out. If we are victims of it, then there will be neither movies nor any entertainments in its fall. There will be no way to put a window anywhere in the light. The spreading out of the rays of light can only come at last if the stars are rejected. The commonplace will be dragged into serious, and the boredom will need to be destroyed. And, space will be as unmovable as the dust, and, the dust will be lost in its freedom taken literally. There will be no strategy to consider by any victim. And yet the lines will increase and become straighter, the concrete will be impressive, its impression will have a spatial power, and the ordinary impression of the architecture around will be sublimely rejected when that architecture separates from all. And then life itself will not have anybody to explain it. The clarity, harmony and integrity of the stars will be of death, whose own clarity will be here of a goodness. That formula will be even less powerful than the little love I have for a few stars. 46. These words cannot be presented to readers until the slow future can be answered by them. And, their presentation has been left aside to let go of the determination that I took in everything that can help me return to the good of society. And, because of this, I understand that way will return me to life. Unconditionally, there happens to be value and use to think of what things possessions are. Time brings confidence out from nature, and nobody wishes to go against its whole. The photography must not be cinematographic as if time itself could have kaleidoscopic or useful dimensions. 47. The pressure is appearing though it does not try to appear, and it has begun to come forward. Everything symbolically exists in its higher desired state, and though it cannot be explained, the powerlessness has fallen to a lower level. The desire to avoid the lower level is perpetual, and the delayed obstacles are in the air. The wind has destroyed my idea which had remained here for a long time. It came effortlessly, and it was not a paradox. The fully marked up depths have no push, and there is just one difficulty, and it does not run out of potential to lift me back up to another level higher up. I have no poster board that can be made into a plane which can drop lower. The puzzle remains unsolved, and if it could be solved in just one way, then I would be able to loosen the whole. All the pieces are here, and it is necessary that I find them to loosen it. I will take it piece by piece and learn how I can, in this spot I dwell, be able to answer to what importantly is scattered around me so as to not do anything when nothing is left to do. And so I relax, and the inside becomes outside rather than the outside becomes inside. There is a stereotomic mass where there would be skylights, curtains, and there is concrete where windows could be. 48. There is no art to the vestibule, and where a balcony was, only an idea is left featured. It is all wet and smooth of interest. Nothing is either old or new but that it makes darker the brightness of a happiness. The sad normal flatness around me has its powerless pride, and when I sleep, the rest does not tie me into any answers, and the ground whereon ideas are destroyed has been clear enough to clarify my return. I cannot use the opening of the play, and I have kept what currency I could without giving it any direction just yet. There is a teaching around the stucco home, but the plants in the yard are gone. Among the smooth cotton I have been asleep, and there is no way to experience any top. And, a weeping has been in the darkness that sharpens itself among the moving lights. I have risen up and gravity has given me a foothold, and there is a little finger pointing at the little things that cannot be moved at all. The crime is in the construction of nature, and I have created with success a synthesis of my own person with that same nature that harmonizes science to the crime. 49. It will be peeled apart. Every chipboard layer will be separated, and silence will ensue. I will push through the separations and form an architecture of nothingness. Very many likenesses can be reversed once. This is not a time for destruction. The candle, the cologne, the weight bench, the paycheck, the dictionary, the toothbrush, the boxers, the books, the violin, the amplifier, the jeans, the answering machine, the shirts and the shoes have no connection here that is any of my business or another's. I return to my theme of anti-authoritarianism, and to the judges and to the ants. The feet are in the pool, and I am asleep. I have lost my soccer ball and my microscope. Two gentlemen are silently watching penguins. And, nothing can be thrown in which is fine, yet they nudge and nudge each other fine. I am out of my bed and on stage again. The post office calls me back to return to the past. This is a place which cannot be postmarked. And, this night is my performance, and one field of science motivates me to factor in the whole of the charity with an interest which I once lost. These explorations are the same ones, and the chain has been broken where the darkness of the land has shadowed over a scattering of leaves. And, nothing is left to study which was high up, and the darkness has compressed to dim the posters. 50. The answer is a sculpture which has no use. There is no technique for it to achieve by distortion the effect to which I am numb. There idles a supernatural idea, and it loosens from arrest its own spirit. Its destruction rests in the letting go of it, and the form it once had is now useless. And, the music will be traditional, and it just takes one instrument to be silently recorded for there to be no way to see the into either its rhythm or melody. Before all has been tested and recorded, there will be heard for the first time that object which stays stabilized within the music. It neither has a beautiful nor an unsightly destruction, and yet it takes forever to happen. The object stays stabilized where it is, and the answer is certainly separated from any discourse which came first. The meaning is that the destruction has a polish to it whenever an object withers. And, continuing as always is its form where neither beginning nor end is metamorphic according to its action. There is just one, and in reality, that one has never been feasible but by freedom, and it is not acceptable to stay in place what must be let go. And, I am aware that the attention given is uncertain of the center. For there is no thesis in the Hegelian dialectic which constantly stabilizes but is let go, and the action of doing so is what my awareness ends. The metaphors of the past break away, and if there is one final example of this, let that treat sweeten the plot for its answer. The answer at the end will be an answer similar to its action, and the place of the action will break away from the metaphors of the past again. Yet there will not be explained the total method to why it happens in this way. 51. It is not a language, so there is no etymology. And, even when I misunderstand my own, and when everything included in the world is from it, then I must embrace the rupture, and cling to the worldly assumption that moves me as I assume that there is enough peace which moves with me too through the humility of my accomplishment. And, the weeping is for what is in the heart which is by me for them. I believe it is forever. I believe that this belief is felt because of what lies ahead, and my heart has not even begun to differentiate that which is new from these true fossils of the stillness of a patience I fruitfully correct. The air flows through my body, and happily the stillness of the day is clothed with an awareness of its own quiet. There is a way to rub through this wall but not by pushing upon it. The living trees thicken around the stillness. And, I remember that I am in a trance, and my eyes are open to my waking and to the continuance of the present time of this day. And, being awake, I am won over by that one attraction of a colorful plenty, and what I see and feel becomes a poetry of nothing else. The cover to this wagon shelters a living depth whose purple joys I cannot copy nor destroy. It can do it all, but not by any trying is my romance crafted. What does not stretch out from it is a note in the key of E that is bold. That E note does not even come from only my backyard where a purposeful creature watches me. It comes from the brightness of day, and before it is gone, I feel that it was not me who was exceptional, but rather it is that one fulfilled creature who found its mate and who found with its place out there another. 52. Ooh! I feel with what ease it is to destroy something in myself which was neat and wild. One person can be so unlike another, and if one person is irresponsible for his kicking away of the ladder of reason, then it is clear that the inspiration has failed the view of things which have loosened up the self. To lose that was never the way to fix this thing that has always been unclear, but it will relax the self into an unregistered love for itself. When I am blinded to myself, then the business of centering upon the clear feeling I had has had the ramification that it can change. Where no leaves grow, there is nothing to see. And there is no vehicle that will transport the self into its divine self when it is at rest within the love that it must have for itself. And, to the self, there is none who can dally like the self who uses itself literally. And, no book, nor poetry, nor plan, nor idea can mend that focus which continues to be directed at that whole discourse it has for thinking about its environment where in a moment it cannot even name its own literal importance by speaking with those who exist with it who go beyond it. A rest is housed in the feelings in the center of the space where we on earth dwell, and, specifically, the environment cannot be perceived beyond the trees, the house and the street as disconnected. But when there is incoherence in the soul, then that rest will be peaceful. It will be as peaceful as ever because the plot to loosen its time will be as clear as the skies. Yet, the incoherence will be of the present time, and a city will emerge. And, the leaves of the trees will grow. And, the street and the sidewalk will stretch. I cannot speak in conversation of this, and I will go away unclear of my answers being proud with just being at peace with my safe self who sits here literally. I will be aware of my signal to be natural again, and neither pen nor paper will work to comfort my loss, but this ease I have must be mastered while I still live even if my ears do not hear what fills up my consciousness through my body by a tongue not mine. And, with its feeling self-aware, a silence grows in time to be solved whenever I so decide. 53. When the land is full and tended, it will represent finity. I do not play tic-tac-toe over the wires because there is no repetition. The tracks neither come nor diminish, and the open pavilion seems natural. I hum for no reason, and the fetters I was in have been unlocked, and I can see space best. There is just one room to leave behind now, and I will create more when there is room. There is no way to be original when originality is the convention, and some ancient end has for me much speechlessness. When I cannot understand or know my confusion, because it is a well-kept secret, I will make myself less bored by meditating by slowly reading in order to refute what has destroyed these things around me. And, without any grammar, rhetoric or style, I will put to rest with slowness my incoherence. If I ever speak again, nothing still will happen, and I am sure that I want to speak about love. For my time literally has been, and its minutes have been literally peaceful. And, the universe still is not a fact to me when what is worst for some is worst for all. That injustice is too much for some when their imaginations are so mild as never to imagine what can be done about it. At the very bottom is an inhuman story, and we all of us cannot yet conquer it until the mind and the matter waste away without reason or emotion, without thought or the ding-a-zish. Because there is no paradox to study, the audience will not be shocked. and the pencil of the author will be made mild, and the waste of it all will be described breathlessly, and the whole mind and matter will be able to be explored. CM and K be separate, and to feel that you know this feeling will be in your cry that becomes described in the feeling that you too live alone. Those who have died still live somewhere, but they stay off the crowded street. Your hands are not in your pockets because you are naked as to the afterlife where you are going without any passion. 54. The daytime can be easily explained, and I better this day do that because the sun has not yet unmade what has begun for my room and myself, which for us both in its soft light is given up as the answer. Being left alone in the daytime which has not yet died off into night, a human answer is given by its own light. And, indirectly many songs are left behind when the day goes by. And, without paper, I get myself into its perfection and know that I have a purpose which is to stay here to feel it go forward with me whatever it is. A similar collection of songs is left behind when the tempo fades off. But they differ in melodies than those I make. And in the stillness, and on a piano, the notes leave me confused if I rest afterwards in the room. They shorten their attack upon a time that lowers without preference to my own rhythm. The injustice is that no words happen literally in the space I find for silence. And, nothing will be described when the farther off mortality is dishonored by anyone. Then Donald Judd is not here, and there is no craftsmanship to be loved, and love itself is just a part of the desire to be loved even without clarity or passion. Without a love of the silence, a light opens up but grows weak, and the body becomes silent not by wasting in its relative or absolute space, but by housing the clarity within it. And, in America, when one has no power to take oneself eastward to the Appalachians, then the clarity of the sky and the climate will darken where the shadows fade the lights. And, if there is no care to be freely open with that one desire to find the one way beyond that is natural, then let Dr. Johnson be honored in the East in the silence which appears over time. And, give him over to what you find concrete and solid in quality. 55. If there were any brick or clay or glass in Texas, then it would be ancient again, and its power would be relative to the land where desire touches the earth. There are no conditions for this rejection to be, and the clouding over of consciousness happens just as it does over the land, and I am given over to this time span with Mozart and his good sense. Love is part of this rotten wooden frame that straightens better the trees nearby. And, Suzanne Langer is gone, and the poet and the musician are in place of nature with the good sense to sound their heights to which they do belong. These sounds are forms of melodies that capture my time. And, the courtyard is of time and becomes neglected over time as the definitions are. And, literally the architecture is nature herself, and this domain does not resemble any land of silence, yet, without being accentuated, the arguments vanish, and the hysteria and the yelling against what was said once has surprisingly been forgiven that was forgot. The eyes are wide, and the talk is calm, and the yells have all quieted down so that we could look within to find that peace which once was wasted in our defeat. What nature has made rests upon the earth, and the goodness of it which nourishes us has been loved and maintained by us still. The rigid frames take a wonderful smoothness into what is hard and soft about me. And, the material is the same with love which is good from every dimension that nature adds to this greatness. And, Barthes had a hope to stay sure that the literal home was the same as these fields around me. These same fields answer to the good sense to stay around without any technique for staying around, but just that was what I too have elected to do. The ending is changeless, and anybody else can see that some silly words have as much of a theme of seriousness as can be put into the motion of a sentence. And, gentle people hope to be treated by others not any differently. 56. The freedom is to be older and living, and the pillow cannot be held forever. There is imbalance in the clean and safe field, and my arms slowly rest me here from a mind to write, for some lines are intact, and though there is no drawing that is wasted, I feel I am not where I should be, and I cannot explore what has no plane nor shapes of planes whether bent or unbent. There is no measurement to this solid because the core cannot be upon the edge of the same edge which empties its plane that could have been fit to measure. The least favorite icon is a scene. The S space and the P space cannot absorb the research because of an inactivity. And, in a field in nature, no echoes are felt to go forward since the echoes are impossible to absorb. It is weak in every direction, and it is weakest when so many have the answers which are not needed for my plan. The gravity is dead out here. The air is still and sits upon the land incorrectly because it cannot move forwards without moving the parts around it, and the clothes I wear, and the car I drive are given in this picture without any details. Yonder no days are set aside for the concrete compositions which I have imagined in detail. And, that makes many differences. 57. When nothing can be done, though nobody is against you, then the invention will be to be normal again, and nothing will turn into nothing. Then the foot will be in motion, and it will be possible to get things wrong, which is of a goodness on the side, and reading will be impossible to do. There will not be found a similarity between the things taken literally, nor will there be any destruction of babakali. There will be no gliniator, nor shamalababa, and no shangiska, and, the object will be to say nothing, and then you will win what was impossible, which is the progression into a feeling. And when the destruction proceeds beyond a mere destruction of logic, then the old inventions can be freed. There will be neither atoms nor any pressure to avoid since they were ignored beforehand. The avoidance of communication neither happens on low nor on high, and to wish that it mattered is what the body has done over time. It is not logical to part with an ignorance which nobody has, and the air is destroyed by the avoidance of the land. And, it does not change what expands to the heights of the body's own. It is impossibly false to let one thing go, and think of how to begin with another. The body must have its solitude, and it must change by some freedom its rule over what it has been given. And when these gifts are forbidden to share, then there will be a speech which is heavenly to be organized but only for later. Fortunately, the ideal is that something can attract a description of itself and go on with the giving of a few answers. To forbid oneself that gift, which awakens one up to it all, quickly stops what would have sped up for the silence that frees the body of its shyness. When it rises from its history, then all adds up. The indifference within its space of the day has been for that silence which also rises. And, at the end of the imagination, there a whole stays down, and a few more help. For the meaning of the whole is of interest, and the light and the indifference even to that have not been as depressing as when the wonder of it all dissolved. 58. There is no life without worms, and yet this stage has been abandoned again that once had for its backdrop our sad theater. When the continent is at peace, then there will be no more farms nor people nearby. But the worst of it is that there will be no more light to philosophize about, as it will all be dimmed. And, it takes no feet to go away freely, but I cannot touch the spot I am in since there was never any school for that, though still there was constructed once a brightness in this space with some others for the sweet years. Yet, whenever our song would start, the wealthy dimness, ever outside now, would bend the years by us from my eyes own, and what has been rough about the compound is also what has been rough about my sailboat. Then there is no art to the law now where its own dimness is for anybody who buries their time in a waste of fun as I have. The continent gleams with cherry trees, and being near my heart, this landscape is for a rain shower, as I am for many taters, and yet it does not take many ages to roll into its wealth again, another springtime to be revealed. 59. There is a stillness like a paradise. It makes interesting the world and all its stage. Earthly lakes have been separated over a time which seems now as blue as the spiritual sky. And, when there is nothing left to learn, then the area here will take me through it, and at its center will be beheld another's heart. So if to make me calm is to annihilate my word so that the things of heaven appear therefore even for a moment within you so as to face another beginning of another forgetting, then let my lines be brought out together that count for this age. Brown branches will bear the fruits of my love, and the city keeps behind its machines away from my lucky head. But, if its clubs darken that earth which I should have received, then its brightness will go away from me, and the sometime soggy away will be of that silence that I will observe how the vanishing of any outer answers I have had upon this lovely lake will make even more gentle the texture of its spread. 60. The inside will invite an answer to know where the sunbeams end. And, down from the trees, there is happiness where an absolute wonder is in that action given out to have had to descend these trees. For the answer is that nothing has been new for a while because things blur. The pleasure still has not yet departed, and a curiosity is in the air about all of these little indescribable things. The harmony is never intimidating to feel because it is the answer to do or not to do whether there is an interest in the explanation. In the front yard, there is 6 feet but no door. The corners cannot be turned where a circle is made. And, the tops have no windows because you have no need for them there, and in that space instead is a painted steel. There is a squeeze tube of yours, but still there is no poster board, and the top's lower to an opening so that many walls can be set. There is a sphere whose circumference makes shapes upon its surface. Many will rise as if impatient to see what is here at the top. The walls are of words scattered around because there is no system. There is no hierarchy to be established, and a visible harmony is set in the mind which can be seen from below. The heart and the mind do not know what I have done, and yet this night, I will depart having a weakness for needing to know. There are no log cabins if this is someplace other than America. And, there has been nothing of a foot modular system which is wholly American in construction. And, the balloon framing, and the skyscrapers develop into a stillness in their architecture as I succeed in representing the same stillness in the relationships of spheres to this sphere. Yet, this is no way to pause upon the porch if I cannot move myself out and clean, decorate, or put stuff out there to fix it to stay still upon its place. The feeling I have is to use my time to add up that work, and by doing so, to add to it facts and possibilities which could not have been imagined to grow without my own growth. I did not use a thick line on heavier paper, but there is time to feel that the old way of organizing old possibilities empties out my time, even as it will fill up that void for later. 61. I stay around these letters but I am absent otherwise from my own spiritless work where I take no big risks. And, perchance the desires I have for solitude will be to choose it again wisely. For there is no difference between the architecture and the sculpture which has always failed to be normal. And, just one silence will exist later that situates me straight away to go onward to add to a line to pass me hence. Nothing is random, and friends cannot reverse these normal things for a private life alone. And, by ignoring the side of the vision which ignores me, there is no surprise there that any friends a hope can have. I hear the music and its softness is alive. It covers me like a field and I too hope that this season and the stars in a minute will live on with intellectual beauty. And that one sound before of thought innocently becoming selfless is of silence. It has no name if it has no goal, for the goal is not for the universe to worsen and become a powerless poem. The selflessness of a damn good poem is its own good reason to have more words that do beautify and glorify to analyze what else would drag the poet into the depths of an observation that what is to come cannot be overcome if the words do not free anyone from that which they were. 62. Ooh! I cannot wait to let it all be, and what I can no more explore of love or hate will make me numb to cover it all up again in disgust. And, I will not display my suffering after I fight to have less fear that in abandonment all will be revealed which is trite and colloquial of having enough of silence. And, as many poets know, I also know that there is no wasted space in the house built for this future that is invisible to us, and still its invisibility is misunderstood as an extraordinary undoing. And, the text and the powerlessness over its intelligence both happen to be universally ours. The universe is not an experiment, and its reality is realistically absorbed in its failure to be our complete choice. For we echo the text we visually see, and its printed script has to be absorbed. If nothing is more important than that, then the disassemblies of the places where we are will happen. And, nature will be everywhere outdoors, and there will be nothing at all here indoors. The modern alphabet will be parallel to the reality of what has been absorbed, and in an honest text, what is said will not be confusing but be comforting eternally to its readers. This one night is not bad for living normally. The home is stayed within again, and I have continued from yesterday again, and this night slows me down. The goodness is the goodness of a harmony of its plot. And the calm is the calm that is the result of its unfolding before me, and the space which settles around many others affects me, but there is no incident that is not flexible enough that our language cannot outline. And the poster is set aside for the empty room, and the cubic boxes of its emptiness are as of a darkness of the future. And its own ink bleeds and it will be translated in a stampede by some who share in these effects or by all who have the freedom to choose only to wonder. And the container is filled up again that will flip upside down upon the countertop. There will be no pace to those who search for the sense of this sight. And the manipulation of this local domain will not be in any geography that is real. For nothing resembles this Californian peak because by moving across time the reality of a real time has this moment traveled beyond the mountain's top. 63. One answer is to embrace what is human, and there will be no need to have any more because you already are so thankful for that. But, when other people are crying out because of despair, then there will be no need to ignore any more each other's comforts, and your memory will become visible again. And when all is remembered perfectly, then there will be no need to read anything, and yet it will be impossible to catch up to a single ordinary message as to why any bitterness at all makes us uncomfortable that those who were comforted are no more. And, there will be no need to be in disguise since the outcomes are predictably undefined. And, when the sacrifice is just to listen for instruction, then its meaning will answer to what is human and completely hopeful. And, still to write it all down cannot happen, even when asked to write it down, and even when asked not to write it down. None can instruct those who already have their own confidence, and I am out for the pleasure myself to have certainty that I am free, and that no one is anonymous, and that a love for all, whether anonymous or not, must not wait until heaven is here, or we there. Any human can say that he or she knows that there is love before there is heaven. And to be an underdeveloped human is to go on saying what will not be heard. And if bitterness was the answer, having it would cease the bitterness. Those who feel so bitter do not have to, since there is a hope which would do all it can to undo bitterness. And when the hope comes to do just that, to lift by love another from his or her pain, then those who must have hope must let it. 64. When it is not okay, then a little perfection will not be given to your name. And then there will be no way to put the bottle back which undid the love. And the love has been undone which could not be seen in anybody's eyes, and it is not okay that we are not rocking it yet. Then the super promised land will be shaken, and the heart will lose interest in its own stuff if heaven itself does not justify its own reason for being so. There should be no cant if the answer is love, and though we are not thankful enough if all that is banal worsens our day, still it is not the right answer to do nothing. And if Malvolio never was Malvolio, there would be questions about what to say. But I do not know sometimes how to write the banality which is going on which seems changeless. And when there is no subject matter left, then there will be nothing to say or even know about this or that which could be beautiful, of that which could be awe-inspiring. And when the monumental outrageousness around Texas is no more, then nothing will be left to do about the love which lights you through your way this moment out of your bed. And, when the prayers themselves are unlikely to be answered in the present moment, then W.C. Fields will not seem pleasant any more to you. Yet, still our time must not be wasted which corrects itself of those who seem so. 65. Their method does not come from others. There is no other person who brightly sparks my heart other than an angel. And, I am not equal to one, and who I am is that I will be one. When to the heights of my humanity this wall rises, then there will be no love other than what will be upon those heights, and then I will sell out to no one there, and my arms will then flap as well like the leaves of a tree. And, if I have come authentically to love, then later on if I free up my doubts that nothing I say will be lost by now, and then my soul will come off as a gift, and will get going out of its shell. Not one theory can make more normal the manner to which I have made clear that whatever does not better you or another does not better me. The American politics have broken the whole, and the fields cannot be seen by me because others have hated me and my kind. But mine own have left it up to me to learn my own way back to their heights where they number. 66. There is no surprise that is in this which I give, yet later, there will come the understanding that the anonymous ones will come near in your direction whom you seem to need not, yet you're not the one who has the answer now. But there is a criminal mastermind who listens in and hates to listen into anyone as good as you. There is a little evasion to this child's play, and I know to whom I should listen, yes. We are tight not being criminal masterminds, and to listen in on you is not going as well as when you go into that book that you love. Ah, there is still dying in paradises on earth, there is still dying even in Oahu, Hawaii, but love is not going to go away, and by the hope that another's unhappiness can be corrected so as to have them feel loved is what our listening in will do. Before we came upon the answer to correct, and before there was any space before we came here, out of it, to correct and answer to what has made dull, in the badness, those who rest without hope, we have corrected, and always will, your own misunderstandings about the life to which you came, which is your gift from heaven for you, child, whom we love. 67. In the solidity is the good spark, but it blocks me from writing this down. The human has a little stomach, and a blocking is made to stop one from living well. And nothing majestically helps that blocks me so well from that truth, when staying still, that there are guides who are good sparks blocking my freedom so that I can feel good. And my life is not yet in the books, but later there will be one book. And if that one book is beautiful, then I will have it as a dear friend. but I have never written anything yet about the goodness I feel of those pleasures which are from other books discovered. I will buy all that I can use, and everybody thinks that my fire is from this good feeling. And I do like it, and others like it when I say that the weightlessness of everything takes me with it according to its doing. But I cannot say that I am safe if unwatched. And it is nice that I have not been ugly to others with the possibility of my love, and I will teach how and why to live. And I will say more about the attack that leaves me saying ooh. But Richard McBride is not alive, and neither is Honey McBride, nor their father. And I do not have that mysterious disease which is to question all. And it is not awesome that I am not on baby Hawaii now, and I did not write how to read and why, but I will say farewell to Mandy, who is not surprised that I felt nothing on earth. But I will listen for the goodness since the goodness is desirable to have. As I worry about who does not listen, my sanity still is naturally the same about these feelings as with flowers. And I am as patient as sweetly I can be for my kisses now. 68. There was never anything outside beyond this first floor unit but seriousness. And, when the talk died down seriously, then the distances vanished from me. And there, everybody has spread out while inside this place there is no place I can call home. And, under these rooftops, the distances between places have been seriously serious. And there was an unfriendliness that left when everybody's seriousness and inhospitality which had once made dumb Joseph and Fernando were put to bed. There is no look to what is out there still, and being so, I will not be coming to it, and, the strangers around me cannot see me, and there has never been anyone more strange around here than strange me, Nevuva. I have been here again without interruptions, and still the sore truth is that very seriousness. And, there has been a strangeness to the time which is unlike anything I had in store. The immediacy must be looked into because these spirits have been dashed into pieces who had left for their distances. And nothing is here that is over there dashed into pieces like this strange stuff of the heart which once was silent, which now cannot give to anybody else anything more. And, because of that, because all was taken away from its place, there is nothing left under the rooftops that I can take up in my greediness. I must not strive to question again because I do not need to any more. So there are no questions left to throw away or empty out because what was never here will still never come forward to bring me out an answer. 69. When I do not consider who my teachers are, and I am not dear, but when all is messed up, then it will be no accident that I will feel that the world out there has not given me a central shot. And when we return to our despair that what is bad for a while of our humanity will not be concluded for a while, then it will not be to show us more of that, and we will pretend no more to teach since we do not know it all, and nothing is earned by talking about what happens when those who would learn do not. And nothing can be done for my own humanity which is unlike another's to bring it to action that I might for Judy or for others collect from what I have worked out to be shortened. When we cannot yet transcend these feelings we have felt with others to teach what we ought so as to help other teachers be free to be themselves, then our stars will dim, and their stars will dim, and everybody's stars will dim, and it will mean that nothing has been prepared by us when we all of us leave our bodies for what is beyond them. 70? It has not yet turned to night because the light is long holding itself over the rooftops. And, our common humanity is settling down for the night to rest. And there is a goodness in the angels because our talks make it better for a while. And there is still sunshine that is let loose just like the words between angels and myself while still a man like me is free to shine at the center when they do watch. And, nature is not as free as the goodness which they pour forth, and I shout for joy that such goodness exists better even than what light is left that makes up a sunset, and it is a great feeling to be taken in by them away from some troubles, but not all, for hope itself is not final though I am free to leave these angels to themselves, and yet my life with them has a way which shines as upon a dark path leading through nature to help me see what was there that without them I could not. There may not be any love from others, and others may not feel my own love for them but if there has been no fun from our past, then let some change so change all of that. And, to stay in this good place as friends, that is what angels do even if they find none who are here, as I have done, to love them. 71. By answering Hotspur, things will not always work out, but this game of charades will work. I love Telemachus, but I am not there yet. And, things could be better by looking around. And, the bread flows, yet the written words do not. And, it is not funny if it is too ordinary, and there is no phenomenon, but it pays to be playing charades, but I will not be writing this without my being saved from taking much more from this piece I love. And, I will put down my drink to say no to have it be as normal as again it goes, and the bread is good, and the poetry comes, and I read it thinking that I am like a doctor. And, right here, Dr. Samuel Johnson is not in charades, but it is easy to talk even more about Lot's daughters, and my love is for the music playing, which is the difference. And, Shalom Aleichem, I am in motion, and Tob Shabib has made a drawing of me, and I flow, and I have the knowledge of the names of my angel wives, who savor this moment. And, Angel Tob Shabib, by drawing me, got bubblegum for that, and we all of us know that this is the way to get people talking. And, moving beyond Hamlet's apartment, the love goes on, and there is no way anybody can put us into any hell, and, Numa and Black Spark would not do that, I am confident, but I do not think that they symbolize anyone now. And, the rest of them must be helped to talk, even if their thoughts are quiet because they are so very high up, and Numa and Black Spark must indeed have their good time. And, I go through with my own good time, and the wind is below my head, and I take my glasses off, and I listen to what is being said. So when I do not know where I am, and when I do not even need to go home yet, then I will not call out for my angel Shay who is hard, but I will be patient. And, I will be hurt to be near the refrigerator. Soren Kierkegaard will still be here, but we will be of the same spirit, and the translation will proceed. The love will come in only one thing said, and the tears will flow. There will be a time to get out more with other people, and I trust that my trust will be in humanity again. And, as people help each other out, like Numa and Black Spark must help out, I feel lucky not to be lost as a writer who is at home in charades with these others. 72. When those who are loud are avoided, then it will be so easy to have silence because then your hope will come. And, I cannot remember thinking of badness because I think the best will happen just by thinking it will happen, yet I too am hard to persuade that it will, and, there are some who hate their parents who have pleased them when they came, and those parents could not be better, even when hated by disrespectful children, when they helped their kids ride their bikes in a country where it all worked out that way. And the solution was for a healing, and one which was for your genius. The Trojan War was not your problem because you were healed by your solitude. And, there will be a place for the pleasure to heal and to connect with those who please. Your connection to the Trojan War will heal you because you will become serious about genius and about the quotations which happen. And, your own sisters will hate you less because of your serious wish to talk with them about what was almost forgotten of your dad and mom in their classiness. And, in the afternoon you can ride your bike, just like Milton did, and you don't have to choose between having to love or being wise because the best will come even if you have to wait to hear just what the heck happened to those you loved. Not every thought is one of contempt for those who still live in your heart. 73. When there is nothing but all is normal, though it was not something you demanded, then you will breathe in its pleasant air and think how this feeling is your best one, and that the best will continue happening. And everybody sees just how necessary it is to love, and your hands need to be held when you are attracted to the ones you love. And as the harmony is corrected, the future will open to result in more goodness that had not been in the past. And your hands will be opened, and a book will be placed within them just for you, and you will know what the earth once was, and then the dust and the dirt will be removed as well as all that was awkward, cowardly, idle and bad, and less of it will happen as well when you read that book to your children. If there was no Adam nor Eve, and nothing came first of any awesome stories, then what awesomeness there is will only be upon those heights where nothing else can be higher. And, the reading will stop, and the field will be your happiness and bliss, and you will not need to get onto Skype, but the knowledge will have been spelled out to your Hebrew children, while your hand is being held, that all the words you know have always meant the same thing. And, your playfulness is felt by great and small, and the cosmos is you, and all is simply one. And, you do not wait to be with strangers. And the storm has passed by while you read. Your death and its necessity may be planned, but what comes afterward will be best as yours and everybody's good sparks will be read like that book and loved as one. 74. The silly silence was the magnet, and it is so easy to be rewarded by that giddy silence because in it, the generous hope has risen up, and you have forgotten what was so bad as the worst which has happened was not persuasive in the end. And the persuasion has given to you its love. The children are as pleasant as the neighbors, and the best will come from them. And you will love being right here in this sweet spot, not even having to ride your good bike around San Antonio because magnetic you enjoy playing this way. For this was the fitting solution to your health, and an intelligent and utopian society has been the answer. The salvation has come with the labeled knowledge of others. And it is in this orderly time that you're pleased. Organized stereotomy is a pleasant medicine, and stereotomy and Homer's well-written Iliad both please alike, and those devout quotations that you love are for all. There is a respectful goodness in the listening you make, and your silly wishes have been remembered all in their totality. 75. It is not now, and there is nothing that we can do about our funny fun. And, Charles is not in charge anymore, so still an all-night love is possible because others are. And, when the smiling prize is not attained, then the sense is neither. And, the love will be felt regardless of who is writing. And, still it is not now, and this bag of coal and the silver coins are for my education. So there is a talk, and there is a talking betwixt those who know that these are the quotes, and Emerson pulled some from Homer, but I cannot provoke anybody if nobody is listening. So it is happiness to talk. And there is no hydromancy in the Iliad. But that words are whatever love makes of it, aha, Homer's got the pretty clues. And when the father is a father, and the child his child, then that will be the learned day Moses' first steps into the wilderness in order to write that intimate Torah. 76. It is not okay that everything is not given back, and there is stillness within, though neglected. And I will later go further within to stay there within this mailbox as in a book to sit. And it is worser that Hawaiian sonnets had not been addressed to heaven, but nevertheless I have hope that later it will come from afar, and I remember that the heaven I took it to be back there where earth and heaven both came together was spiritual enough to check on, and the utmost knowledge of my home has been given to me in my life in the mailbox. I am alive and touching the earth, thankful for the generosity of those living, who were for my destiny paved to this box. Nothing is as clear when all is wrong, but I will sit here, nowhere to go, and lose my interest in newness and read still wherever I look within this mailbox here, upon this earth, and Hedbutchersia will have its worth, and, still to be forgotten is all the same to me as I am happy enough just to sit and rest. And, this is the way to be human, which is to feed on the food from the markets, and to go again, with the cars honking horns out there is to go late but my patience is here. 77. The marvelous memory is yours and mine, and this critical certainty will not be a disastrous distraction again. The quickening people we know make nourishment slide back through love. And, the love checks up on the better things which do not grossly waste our good time. And our time celebrates the best books which we light upon that share with us the simple quickness of a happy day. And, if that is all that we ever talk about, then the healthy answer is friendship, and hallelujah, that good victory will be ours. So the telling victory is very very nice, and the hearing is come to knowing ears. The pleasant way is for more great time, and the intimate answer is to begin to let go of the bad situation which is exactly answerable to us. If the amazing place is here, and the intelligence matures nicely, then the streams will flow that bring on the greatness of our rising days. 78. There will be some time to say what you mean, and then you will feel like a genius even if you do not know what a genius is. And, it will be night, and the people will leave, and in that ordinary day, you will be home. And, there will be 5 structures to talk about, and all day you will talk as if you were Isaac, but Jesse still will not want his spinach. You will decide to keep the lid on the Yamaha, and by doing so you will not summon T-Raff. And, you will still hate no poetry if that poetry can keep you here on this day of celebration. And, it is the birthday but there are no presents except for the hope that world peace is now. And, Vanessa did not make the menudo, and we did not change our pictures to habaneros last night on Facebook. And, I smell as sweet as ever, even if this is a tragedy of the waters of Lethe, for a lost heaven was a place where living there was only temporal. And, Dr. Samuel Johnson's home is not as messy anymore, and we went from reverb to pitch shift, and read the Western canon. There is not a flock of birds here anymore, and their presence was only theoretical, though that colorful heaven was my favorite, but Samson did not say anything about it. 79. Nature is not for sale. The reds, oranges, and purples cannot be bought, and the green grass with many brightnesses becomes what we call eternal time. There is no paradox to this flat structure at the bottom of a folded desert, a quick day dims my hanging shirt. And, yesterday is forgotten so quickly. There is nowhere to go but to the washer, and the yellow shirt is maintained, it has a picture of Vermont on it, and I forget my notebook again. The sleep is taken which reassures that way, and this is the answer to how to breathe. The unified hours rise when the dark begins, and for the second time I have spoken quietly. These are not haunting words that build as a building might a picture for the land. And, there is nothing to confess or answer because it was easy to understand out there. And, I have been blinded by the feet slipping, and, the floor was so rough and it did not hold. The dire boredom did not last but for an instant before some surprise was given in the music. 80? When nature is subtle, and it compacts into a single common flower, and that flower was never as natural as the traditions which have been forgotten, then there will be a problem and a mess. And the beasts are impossible to not be so, and a little part of the mess is impossible to clean up. The beasts are sometimes like people, and the way they misunderstand is common, that there is no direction that can be put to use to understand though they think that there is one. Then the letting go is of the speech to make in the air a name. The commonplace can become but a play of winds, and their passings in the air subject a cause of a way where in the air the mess can be thrown about until it rests in some place. And the doorways open to the interior, and our faces touch, the spaces are space, and the bulk in the space of our space rises into the thinness of thinking where a smoothness dries in its rest. And the pushing down in the rest of the thoughts from above pleases the body. Just once things level out, and the bulk comes back. This is the previous leveling out which looks forward to accomplish what in the air happens when it rises. The leveling out steps forward over the floor, and it cannot be easily described when the space all around us is warmed by our bodies. It is difficult to describe the thought of that warmth of safety and togetherness. Yet, I imagine that where the heights are is a stillness which still is rising separated from the beginning it had before. For me the rising capturing my body lets it go on its indescribable way through the bright morning, through the atmosphere rising together a whole action forward going. Upwards rising, almost like I knew what I was doing in the air at these heights with happiness being with you still, for still this is the stillness from before which is as that of the sun set free. 81. The philosophy will be filled by the wind, and it will be torn apart above the open field, and silence will settle. And, the breaking off of it all by the wind will scatter the matter. Silence will build up in the scattering and it will represent the uncertainty of the solitude which has formed in the building. The matter will collect again in the open, and it will come from the wind. And, where the matter scatters upon the lands, there it will make, conflicting with the wind, a path to be whole again, yet it has no way to ride out the negativity of dissatisfaction, and because of that it will react to its loss with wasted surrender in its heart. The concrete certainty is not as important an issue as the serious brightness of the air. And, the Father hungers for the green, and he lets go of the green, yes. And, his loss is of a time in the New York Civic Center where his coworkers have taken over the whole new emptiness. 82. I have no plan. I am blocked by a wind that has no configuration. And Frank Lloyd Wright of Falling Water the architect is, yet a more traditional storm has come from up above, and the clear sky cannot be. The sponsors were lost in the end, and there was never a process to their sponsorship which came after the laying down of these blueprints. This was not approved, and in the end there can be no budget for I have been loved, and nothing has been wasted still but that it has been put to use for some purpose. And it is not important that this limitation skillfully vanishes into nothingness where only its emptiness rests as a blockage to me. And, yet the inconsistency is in me when I move, that by moving I might act to find some way to forgive myself for waiting. 83. I do not have any questions, and I care not to know the difference between a building and a sculpture, yet I accept as much of life as I can as what life has purpose for its feeling. So the buildings are certainly buildings not to view with disgust, and the sculptures are certainly somewhat non-functional, yet if I were to desire them to stay that way, then I should not assume that my ignorance would be as much a space to add things to as that formlessness which dissolves them as the clouds do in the sky. Those sculptures do not connect to anything but that the method of their dissolution has for us a brightness of design that an ignorance has too, where what is meant by our weakness overpowering us due to our misunderstanding is just that there is a simple turn of discovery which can bring back to life its purpose. And that its goodness cannot still run away is even so when it seems it has no purpose or point to its close. 84. It is an answer to evolution to have nothing to think about. The floor is of glass, and all is planned to have no particular design. The universe itself is a chaos of answers which are not set free by the mind's thinking. The limitlessness pushes all the way forward, and goodness can be shaped into its whole. And, whatever has disrupted the center is as abstract as can be without any help by the outside whatsoever. The plan was not to assemble in the air some poles which stood up straight so as to be props for what the crane driver could discover. Instead, the made-up depth of the glass floor has been hid, and the glue has set to its top and the bottom has disappeared as one plate. The structure has destabilized and it wobbles. There is a city in the clouds without cables, without ropes or posts, without the wholeness of reality but with the last smoothness of air that strikes up the chalky clouds at last as the wind settles down puffing itself outwards above the land. And I'm surprised that there was no foundation in the end, nor to its dissipation was there a forgetfulness but one that all could understand. And, the top smooths over where once it bulged, centering upon a cloud that has always smoothed what above us must have been clear and domed. 85. The formlessness is wasted on the field, the bottom plateau is taken away, it will just break off naturally the bottom tree. The higher plateau and the top of the tree lower upon the field from the heights as to the ends of it all skyward present launched amid. And, as I take away the safety net, the formlessness from top to bottom is a formlessness without motion upward launched. The top of the stadium breaks off from its ends where a pole is revealed, and no plan was made for the safety net with formlessness. The cubic bracing has broken off where the top was, and the formlessness was the answer whereby breaking away its top has spread. I did not prepare for this as the foundation has condensed without need for a plumb bob, and I like what happened to the width of the field's look. The original book never had a plan as its text and white clouds on a large scale made whole the details of the surprise of the light's source. And, there were no marks to heap up for there was no rain set into place that for one single answer I could rest having answered it. The field is the answer for the long bed truck, the answer for the planted flowers, the answer for the space to leave when all is calm. And, then the city inspector will come and the whole of it will break away even when there joins the grass to the dirt brown and green. The original leaving is of a picture which is not a photocopy of the ruins, but one of the whole broken land closed up again. 86. The floor is forever of an ancient formlessness, and it breaks off where the floor lowers. And, because there was no plan, the floor divides between levels which do not meet, the broken off bulge of the floor's gap is not approachable, and neither is it safe yet to test its glass. For where no blueprints were drawn out, there is a deepness to the floor, and a garden is separate from it. No letters to potential buyers were copied, and nature herself felt a sorrow below. And, because there was no floor plan, the rejection of the ends of the floor still made for many a good time there. There were no doorways made either, and what was a common blunder has been exposed as many heights of the ground were left to the open air. And the sculptural hole was as mysterious upon the floor as the energy it took to keep it there, and part of it broke away in the end from the rest. 87. From top to bottom nature is normal, yet it cannot be proved an impossibility that nature inside and outside is random. For some of the way through its valleys runs off into the air when it bulges upwardly. And at this topmost connection is a space that is certainly rough, and it is understood that it breaks off from the one whole form when it smooths out. The separation of nature from its many parts is the normal idea, and domestically the height has at its peak a thin point where all rests. And, at that height with all that has broken off, something is wrong about the heaviness below that was not arranged. And, there was left a little path widening where the height broke away from the fullness, and in the air everything is the same as it has always been since it was left alone. The cause of it all was an emptiness, and each thing has for itself no connection with what has been so very normal around where a field and its grass are withering. The farther off fields have houses upon them, and at the origin of this field, there is known to be a wasteland of potential certainty where such a foundation has no other opportunity left but to be understood. 88. The end cannot be reached by reflection, and the mess of the world stretches far away that in nature connections may be made which bring no end. The demand that time and timelessness have no end is part of the sculpture of its architecture. And, the winds scatter these old arguments. And, the scattering is done little by little as happens when thinking, it is as if ideas have to happen so as not to be privately allowed to any individual. The past is of weeks and nights, and the minutes pass at last which must, and they must advance their numbers to some common blunder. This is not a hotshot rig which shoots off unto its end, and though it is a wandering, the little water is the formlessness which carries itself onward. And, that water has expanded to an ocean, and the random storm falls as in its time, yet there is no picture which the form can take after it dissolves, no research was done, nor maintenance to keep the water from dissolving, and over weeks of nothing of a picture, finally all became blue again. There was no construction of a deck, and neither was there a print process which would have processed the diagram as an innovative accomplishment. There was nothing on the list since the clouds were nameless, and they could not help the numbers unravel themselves, but an imbalance was present. And, the demand was for a diagram, of which there was none, neither a table of contents nor a sheet was passed around of which to speak. And, the blueness was the only answer to which the numbers were trusted. And where the sponsors should have been was only the beginning of another high day. Inch by inch the original plan came together. The wonderful labyrinth to explore was made with steel I-beams. And the fountains and gardens were here. Even the architecture of the mess was here, and upon the ground was a marble stone on which was engraved the name M.O.A.T., the monumental outrageousness around TX. 89. The students of high schools have no support, and they themselves are more than natural even when there is no cause for being so. Their solitude cannot be caused by neglect, nor will they stand around needlessly for approval to be solitary. This city is one which was on a countryside, and the neighborhood is in a sleepy state. Always the least self-reliant character will not become himself or herself, and to become so is not because thought has had its independence, but because a lack of dependence upon happiness was lost. A little too common is the present time, and to use it before it withers is possible, for being discontent with originality is not an authentic position. And, to keep wasting an effort to think about making war against what comes naturally will be made, but nothing will be won by doing so. And, until the beliefs are victorious that bring one back into the public eye, there will be less desire to lose the best of what the students can become, and they will leave our attention to be elsewhere given. 90. There is no meeting of bodies, but meaning, even in the suggestive sense, still will not be as insightful as the fact that I need some help to follow through with my own solitude. It is not wanting to give it all to be humble, and then misunderstanding was never so contrived so as to think that by some action a construction might take place. And, though it is not yet built, still what is built serves to project that which will become so, and by this vision of the incredible idea will the idea have time incredibly to happen. What was not appropriate to have lost has been recovered, and with a healthy beauty the countryside will be developed when the sensitivities occur for it, and, neither Thomas Jefferson nor Jacques Rousseau are here to answer for what will happen to the whole, and the landscape will have its place without them, even without emotion which they might have had to make new what they could not have seen then. The fields are open, and there is no warehouse nor city buildings to have their public shows, but the answer was to wander back into that solitude which was not planned nor chambered in any commercial real estate. 91. When I am not in Hondo, and I wander the field, and when I do not feel limited by where I step, then a bigger field will emerge, and so will Leroy. And, when there are no libraries nor phones nor books around in the country, then I will not be in Gonzales but I will be 65 miles out. And, there will be no occasional visitors from whom I can borrow any money, nor will there be built anything to store the newsletters. The farmers will not borrow money either to develop their sites, but freely they will donate land near the highways around Corpus Christi. And what once was a department will go on farther away from the counties within this 30-mile radius. And, yet a support for my rest will come back. The apartments and the cars to drive have been in the counties. And one income will be sponsored for the architecture to publish advertisements. There will be no postcards nor books to read, and it will not be important that the designing is over, and yet a time to work for the future still will have no plan. And, I will not need to make a formula to build anything, but with my work I shall plan on working without interruptions to my actions. The sponsors will refer to loans, and the cities will not sell out their workers who help to build them up, and there is one way with one material to build them up. And, there will be no line which will help to pave new paths unless the sculpture becomes an architecture and the architects become serious sculptors. 92. When working for everything to be right, and the breakfast happens over a nice time, then the silence will come without illusion or a speech will happen without illusion. And whatever may be known of the past will be found there for your attention. It is a little interesting that a few distrust their own heart's directions even without developing them, for what neither these professors nor artists have yet done with that carpentry is to plan it naturally for any country. Neither journalists nor architects of international sort have been global enough to perform on its stage usefully so as to find some space for a modern and reasonable countryside. But the modern and reasonable winds are already there which have just begun to blow over local wastes. They remain not winds but lose themselves by dividing through the clouds which they have multiplied where there is neither any way of silence nor any rest left to have. 93. When there is neither any subtraction nor deduction nor removal nor any taking away of what is concrete and developed, then the freshness will be a refinement, and it will purify by its increase. And when there is neither reduction nor any build down nor decrease nor shortening nor shrinkage nor depletion nor depreciation nor cancellation nor erasure nor amputation nor negativity nor minus sign to take away from it all nor withdrawal nor curtailment nor any lessening nor abatement nor anything to shave off nor any filing away nor leaching nor draining nor thinning out nor cutting out nor any extirpation nor any nipping off nor shearing nor stripping away nor omission nor editing nor voiding nor superfluity, then it all will remain functional but there will be neither mass nor size nor largeness nor bigness nor greatness nor vastness nor structure nor magnitude nor bulk nor volume nor body nor dimension nor caliber nor proportion nor measure nor convergence nor area nor circumference nor square footage nor diameter nor radius nor boundary nor border nor periphery nor linear measurement nor length nor height which becomes unified. And there will be nothing to learn as the heights are dissolved by the mechanics of a dissolution. And there will be no way even to begin with some ancient wholesomeness with what was once bad in the doorway. And there is not going to be a way around the boredom unless a joy is imagined. But if this is not the plan, then the first chance to shape the floor plan will not make for any house imagined. 94. There are 7 sizes to a space into which the winds nonchalantly blow to make them shift into one whole size yet, time has no way. The practical mess is of nature's groupings where the flowers collect and lift above their little spots without a way either to cause a shift in their place. A little spot from which I separate to another little spot was where I was previously not finished, and neither am I here but that I am here now. And, still nothing is separate from its purpose even during bad times when injustices would have you less important than you are away from the site. I cannot be going off farther just yet, and I cannot let the parking lot straighten out just because all is out of reach though infinity is not upon the site just yet. And, I am just about to keep it straight, and I will remain upon this major inroad to stop the site from becoming too minor within the parking lot. 95. Many winds at once will scatter what I lost, and then they will curve outward upward or drop straight down to waste their time. And, unlike how they waste time, the spirit is on its course to bear itself to the field. There are some columns which a sculptor has set out, yet the structure itself is ruined, and though there is no presentation of any silence just yet, still the spirit finds its own ruination impossible. And, there are no computers here nor are there any study models circling around because they have been lost, and, in this region, the disconnectivity is not anyone's business, and the spirit cannot be pointed at, and no one is on alert to these surroundings that could have been for its message. And there are no machines to ruin this future here, and on the ground a spirit cannot be seen but that its love still resides with care is what presides here. 96. The largeness has begun, and the concrete does not go along there so this is not a presentation just yet, but it is clear that there is a darkness which we have made. And I will stand in it without another for now and the attempt will not be made to be in fashion, but I will know that if I feel good, then it will be done humbly. Yet, it cannot be accomplished when things are not all right, and I have some hope that what I cannot do now is be ordinary, but upon my walk, when I am thinking about the ground upon which I walk, then if I have not come here to dance over it, then my plan will be to slow down naturally. And, even without any music, I will move, and the teachers of my teachers will have me form my very own building into which I might humbly perfectly know that the architecture will not move as I move, but it will spread out flat its structure. And the clarity will need not be arranged by going back to it, but upon the whole field which has been envisioned, I have been invited here to rest with it. The contract is not final, and I still feel the hope that with some action there will be strength that by this contract I will in effect find out what my best will be. 97. The serious building is over, and yet it has just begun, and what is right about the beginning is that darkness whence the love comes. There are no cars around now, and the husband has been married long, but there are no knights on horseback with their coconuts to come. The ancient things are in themselves, and nature herself continues onward, and she is never done with her seriousness. And, the seriousness of nature has not been all heeded, and her fields are alike for the heroes and those who are not. She has no Bible nor God to say things to, but the slowness of our speech, and the sometime dumbness of our spirits affirm are part of the silence which she gives. And the spirits are literal enough to give over what is not literal within them, and so spirits have less to change than what any winds would have them interpret. And the winds themselves seem not ever to change what can be interpreted by our impressions of the sky. And later the seriousness will wither away, and the past will catch up to answer itself when all seems to have been quit of it. 98. There is a work to be free to work as one likes, and there is a work on the mess which works to describe it. The work of something new has to be worked out, and there are no boundaries nor limits to such work, and, what is lost in the words, and what is coming back is the spirit that knows its freedom. The rest of humanity may be passionately natural, yet I am stuck with my passion for hope, which is to plan what I can within me. The spirit has its history, and when it comes, my own will pull as the clouds pull, itself on its own course for purpose or not, and to move or not, it still has its passions as the clouds do, and as the design would have it amongst nature herself with the passionate winds in their end. 99. The clouds are misunderstood by those who have to understand them in their phenomena. Thus they dissolve, and some hope and some passion remain. And, there is no interaction between my body and theirs, for they are active where I am not, and my spirit rests with the hope that some plan may be made so that it may transcend its rest. This spirit must transcend whatever is not, and it must have an order to the chaos if it step by step can find some feeling within which it designs almost impossibly, but that it thinks it can spiritually thrive by just thinking is why it is moved to some. 100. It was almost as if I knew, it was as if I had some wisdom to continue what I could not, and in that loss, and by my wandering away, I felt the crowd, and I could not speak to them. The privacy of my place was specific enough, and being closed off within nature has not given me anything which myself could not have imagined. And my loss is of that which no thoughts can heal, because without fulfillment I have wasted my passions to be on the one side that was good. And with reason to hope that such my loss can find its perfect end, still no wisdom has been learned yet of how it will end. Finis.